8 out of 100 counties here in North Carolina are considered legal deserts, meaning there's just not enough lawyers that can fit the needs of the citizens in residents of those counties. And so although I am but just me with a team of 5 attorneys, there is the opportunity that with technology, with greater access to internet service, we can go into those legal deserts and actually provide at least that advice, at least that roadmap for people to either represent themselves, but at the very least, have the information that they've been cut off from for so long.
Back to the episode. Now we're going to bring in our guest, Theresa. Welcome to the show, Theresa.
Thanks, Terrell. It's so wonderful to be here. I really resonate with why we're here today and to bring success stories to the forefront, especially for that law firm owner that is having some doubts, most definitely.
Absolutely. So I guess for people that may not be familiar with you or your firm, can you tell us a little bit about what your firm does and what your firm looks like today?
Sure. I'll begin with, I've been practicing only family law for over 12 years now. And I worked at 2 law firms previous to opening my own law firm. Especially with the global pandemic that hit us in 2020, I realized there was a different way that we could serve families and their legal needs. So I founded Modern Legal. When I founded Modern Legal, I was stuck in a very small, about 100 square foot office with a paralegal. Luckily, she did stick with me by my side as I made the transition out of a bigger law firm to just me in a very small office. And from there, I had a vision. I had a vision to grow not only the services, but also our team and the routes through which our clients can access family law services. So as indicative by the name Modern Legal, we employ a number of different technologies to make sure that we can address all of the legal needs of our clients. And it's interesting because the North Carolina courts have luckily also gotten on board by adopting an e-court system, which is rolling out as we speak throughout North Carolina. And we're hopeful that it will be rolled out throughout the entire state of North Carolina by the end of 2025.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Now, I'm very curious when you talk about being a modern law firm I talk to a lot of law firms, and that isn't always the first thing that comes to mind when people describe law firm. Coming from a bigger law firm and then just really branching out, what was it like for you emotionally? Because you're going against the grain a little bit.
It's so true. It's so true. I like this joke because I was a techie before I went to law school. I built my first website when I was 10 years old. It's a horrible looking website, so please don't ask to look at it. But I always thought there was a responsible place where technology could be. And when I started practicing law, I realized that lawyers were way behind the 8 ball. I'm talking, granted 10 years ago, but some law firms didn't have internet even 10 years ago. Some law firms didn't use email. And when the North Carolina courts had shifted to this e-courts type system, they actually required all attorneys to have email addresses. And it was very hard for some attorneys to get on board, where I'm sitting here like I've lived abroad. I actually, if you remember back in the day, I don't know how old you are, but I used to Skype with my mom when I was living in Europe and the Middle East. And so I've been using these technologies for 15 plus years, and it was very new to a lot of attorneys in my community.
Nice. Now, something that I often hear a lot of attorneys say, where the leader of the law firm or the owner of the law firm, they're adopting and they're embracing the technology. But then when it comes down to their staff, like getting their staff to be okay with adopting and following the processes and utilizing the technology, what was that like for you of just getting, like I said, not only yourself adjusted for the technology, but other people that you're working with and that are reporting to you? Like, how did you adjust getting them up to speed on the technology?
That is a great question. And all I can say, it is a never-ending process. So I'll begin with, there's a lot of technologies that a lot of people don't know about. And so I have to investigate which technologies I even want the law firm to use. Then once there has been this executive decision, if you will, of technologies to utilize, then it's making sure the team gets a grasp of those technologies. But it's never ending because not only is someone going to understand maybe one perspective, but not another. But it's also helping our team members understand how their piece of the puzzle then fits with another team member's piece of the puzzle. So for example, in one of our technologies, we utilize Clio and we use tasking. I hear all the time attorneys are like, I didn't task because I just sent a message. And then I hear support staff, yeah, I got the message, but then I got a phone call and then I had to do this and then I had to do that. And then I forgot what I was even doing. And if you just sent a task, I could have a list of things to go back to and see where I'm at. And it's one of those like balancing understandable expectations and understandable habits that we all come to the table with, but then hopefully getting some buy-in from each team member to really understand, because of how the different puzzle pieces fit together, we need to make some personal adjustments, or maybe we're like, look, I'm just not going to work that way. Okay, how can we cope with that reality? So it's a never-ending process is a simple answer.
I laugh as you said that because I've gone through the same thing, like even in my own accounting firm, to where it's like at one point we were used to like, oh, just send the person a Slack message. And then but we've updated the process to like, hey, we have a practice management software. People are operating based off the task there, where it's like balls are getting dropped in. And I totally agree with you. That is a ongoing development of just how the technology and how our processes evolve over time. So thank you for bringing that up.
Of course. And it'll never stop, because whether or not I make a change at the firm level, the state is going to make some change for the e-court system. And then we're all going to be in the dark because we all have to learn something new. And at this point, I'm just like, welcome to life. Like, this is life.
No, I'm curious about your perspective on technology. And said the North Carolina state courts are also making a change in technology. How do you feel your affinity or your flexibility with adapting to new technology prepares you to actually keep a healthy firm that you actually enjoy running, even as the states start to make changes as well?
That's a great question. And I know we don't have the whole day to talk about this, but we could definitely talk about it all day. I'll put it this way. I think it's similar to what I was saying earlier. It's life. We're going to consistently get changes. There is something to be said that technology opens up a lot more doors. So for example, I do have clients that live outside of the state of North Carolina. They may be abroad, they may be in California. And if I can turn to a judge and say, hey, judge, we have the infrastructure to have a virtual hearing, so my client doesn't have to incur the expense of a flight to be here in person for a hearing, especially when it's a smaller court hearing, judges are more open to that. And what does that mean? That means a greater access to justice. Another project specifically for my firm, because legal deserts is a real problem in North Carolina. A couple of years ago, there was a study done by the North Carolina State Bar that found that 48 out of 100 counties here in North Carolina are considered legal deserts, meaning there's just not enough lawyers that can fit the needs of the citizens in residents of those counties. And so although I am but just me with a team of 5 attorneys, there is the opportunity that with technology, with greater access to internet service, we can go into those legal deserts and actually provide at least that advice, at least that roadmap for people to either represent themselves, but at the very least, have the information that they've been cut off from for so long. And at least for me, that's a passion project of mine is, if you don't know what your rights are, how can you protect your family? How can you protect your finances? How can you protect the future of your situation? And as one attorney puts it very well, everything comes back to the family. And if we want a healthier society, I think we need to make sure our families are in a healthier situation. And legal rights are a big part of that.
Awesome. I love it. I guess it is no surprise as to why you have a successful law firm.
Appreciate that.
So as we wrap up, one of the things that I always love asking, if people are interested in just getting an idea on like what your firm is doing, or just, seeing updates, is there anywhere people, or what's the best place for people to find your firm online or on social media?
Sure. So first point of contact, I would say, is our website, modernlegalnc.com. And we have a number of resources on our website, anywhere from blogs as well as connections to the North Carolina Child Support Calculator. We also have launched a podcast ourselves called Legal Lounge with Modern Legal, and we're available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any member of our team. My email address is Theresa@modernlegalnc.com, so feel free to shoot me an email anytime.
Awesome. Theresa, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Law Firm and Finance Show, where we give you great content that helps you build a more successful law firm. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on all platforms and follow us for more content.